One scene in Zach Cregger's smash hit horror movie Weapons left some viewers puzzled, while others theorized that it frames the entire movie. The twisted mystery at the center of Weapons unfolds after 17 schoolchildren from a single classroom vanish from their beds with no warning, leaving their teacher and the entire community searching for answers. Starring Julia Garner, Josh Brolin, and Amy Madigan, Weapons burst into theaters with a 95% Rotten Tomatoes score, and has seen a tremendous response from audiences. The wild mystery horror movie outgrossed Cregger's first movie, Barbarian, in just 3 days, and is poised to become one of the most successful original horror movies of the year. There are so many different potential themes and metaphors scattered throughout Weapons' runtime, including real-life inspiration for Cregger, that the movie can be interpreted in a number of ways. However, one scene in particular has pushed many viewers to believe they've figured out the central purpose of Weapons, Archer Graff's dream with the floating gun. Archer's floating gun dream could frame Weapons as a metaphor for school violence. A clock showing 2:17 a.m. in Weapons. A key recurring aspect of Weapons is the depiction of dreams, and the most confounding element in any dream shown in the movie is the floating rifle in Archer Graff's dream about his son Matthew's disappearance. The rifle had the time of the mass disappearance on it, in the style of a digital alarm clock, 2:17. The prevailing theory is that the gun and time are a giveaway that the movie Weapons is intended as a commentary on school violence in the United States, particularly regarding the trauma it inflicts on survivors. The fact that one of the students, who happens to be a target of bullying, remains supports the notion that the disappearance is a representation of his shooting victims. The prevailing theory is that the rifle and time are references to the July 2022 assault weapons ban, which passed in the U.S. House of Representatives with exactly 217 votes. That bill would go on to fizzle out in the Senate, eventually expiring without ever being ratified into law. The apathy of the adults of Maybrook that allowed the entire disappearance to unfold, and the subsequent inability to locate them or identify the strange behavior of Alex Lilly is intended to represent that lack of ratification. It reshapes the entire narrative, making it an examination of apathy, and how, by ignoring warning signs, everyone becomes complicit in disasters, effectively becoming weapons. Zach Cregger has no straight explanation for the floating gun scene. Josh Brolin as Archer Graff looking angry at a community meeting in Weapons. Although it may be frustrating for some, Zach Cregger has shared his own perspective on the floating gun scene, and it supposedly has nothing to do with school shootings. As Cregger noted in an interview with Variety, he didn't actually have a grand political narrative in mind when he crafted that image. As was the case with many of the themes and metaphors that moviegoers have pulled out of Weapons, Cregger claims that he doesn't actually know what the meaning of the images is. A lot of what Cregger includes in the movie is born from his own subconscious, completely devoid of surface-level meaning when the images originate. Per Polygon, Cregger embraces the David Lynch method of transcendental meditation, in which you fold imagery from your subconscious directly into art, and then leave it as is. When Cregger says that he doesn't understand it, that's what he's referring to. He knows the image is powerful, but he hasn't locked onto a singular meaning aside from the image. Even if Cregger didn't have a specific, correct answer in mind when it comes to the floating gun image, that doesn't mean that the school shooting's interpretation is therefore incorrect. Despite what Cregger says, the number of parallels between the narrative of Weapons and school shootings is certainly high, especially in the movie's first half. However, that comparison sort of falls apart in the movie's final act, in which the children are recovered and the story begins to evolve. That backs up what Cregger said about the image being no more than a powerful image. If it was so important to the central theme of Weapons, why is that theme never truly revisited once the movie pivots with the arrival of Aunt Gladys?